What's poppin', everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pregaming Pigskin. I'm Wire to Wire Gene, and to my left, I got the man running the ones and twos, the king of production on Sports Empire Network, Kyle Edwards. What's poppin', Kyle? How you feeling?
I'm good. Can't complain. It's wild card weekend. Love it, and can't get it's just excited to talk NFL with all of you.
Directly below me, I got THEEGODFREY, D Godfrey from Taking It Deep with D Godfrey and Birds Deep. How you feeling tonight, Godfrey?
I'm feeling good. It's like the week before Christmas, or a couple days, something like that. I'm excited. Something.
Wild Card Weekend is wild, and if you've noticed, we have a guest with us. She is so humble. The 2023 RA of the year. I'm kidding with you. We got Carolina Blue Kicks, hottest sports reporter on the block. I'm trying to get the Jay-Z line in. We got Carolina Teague. How you feeling tonight, Carolina?
I'm good. Do you know what RA stands for or no?
No, help me out.
I'm the 2023 voted best ring announcer of the year in the state of Texas. Period.
Ring announcer of the year. Okay. I voted for you. I seen.
Oh, you did. I won. I ended up winning.
Well, congratulations. She is going to be the ring announcer for, was it
River City Wrestling. So it's for wrestling. Wrestling is really hard to ring announce for, by the way. It's not like boxing. Well, I do boxing style, but boxing is like who your opponents are. With wrestling, everybody thinks it's scripted, but it's really not. You never know who's going to run through the crowd and jump into the ring. So you have to be on your toes 24/7 with ring announcing and wrestling. It's hard. It's a tough.
I get it. Love wrestling.
Man rocking the NWO shirt.
Yep, I get it.
Big wrestling guy. But appreciate you joining us. Carolina she's very well versed in everything. She's a Spurs sideline reporter. Am I correct?
Period. Yeah, for
Ring
sure.
announcer of the year for 2023.
Yeah.
And if you check her Facebook, if you just follow her, you know how much football she knows. She's on a football show. I just seen her post about the Chicago Bears collecting all those stones like Thanos. So she's here to talk football with us. This is Pregaming Pigskin. We're going to talk about this wild card weekend. This is like Christmas weekend for me. Wild card weekend's always been one of my favorites. This weekend to me is a little disappointing. I feel like there's 3 games that already have predetermined outcomes. There's a 4th game that I think is going to be an absolute blowout that no one is seeing. But I will tell you, it's my game of the week. It's probably my game of the year so far in 2023. It is early. I did give you the Commanders money line last week, and I'm going to give you another real big one this week. What's poppin', Freddie? How you feeling? But we wanted to start with the coaching carousel. Black Monday just hit. Cliff Kingsbury was fired. We already had the Broncos fire. Nathaniel Hackett. We got a lot of different coaching opportunities available. Jeff Saturday apparently is going to have an opportunity to interview. What an absolute joke that is. Guy went 1-7, blew 33-point lead, and he's going to have an opportunity to interview for the Colts head coaching job. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. It gets a real deep here on Pregaming Pigskin. But let's start with, and I want to kind of do this just so everyone knows it's a little bit off script. Kyle, I want you to give me any team that has a coaching vacancy, and we'll discuss it first.
Okay. I guess we could talk about the Texans one because I think that's the one with the past couple of years, one and done coaches that I think a lot of people are looking at who they hire next. I know for me, I've thrown out DeMeco Ryans. I know he's not going to take it, but I feel like if the Texans knew what they were doing, DeMeco Ryans being a defensive guy, he seems like he doesn't take a lot of nonsense. He's an up-and-coming, young coach. Used to play there, would have been a perfect move for them. But, of course, with the David Culley and Lovie Smith stuff, I doubt he goes there. But, I mean, I keep throwing his name out there for that job because that's who should take it, but it'll never happen.
Now, do you think he should take it, or do you think the Texans should hire him?
Well, I guess I should say the Texans should go after him because it would make too much sense there. But I mean, I know you said several times that he's
go after
turned.
him.
Yeah, I think they should
go after him. I just think if I'm D'Amico Ryans, it's like I'm the pretty girl at the dance, right? D'Amico Ryans, the hot coordinator that everyone wants.
Mhm.
Why would he take that job with that organization that just basically, in my opinion, scapegoated two African American coaches the last 2 years with David Culley and Lovie Smith? I think that was absolutely bullshit what they did to Lovie Smith this year. Scapegoated him. So why would I go into that situation?
No, I completely agree. Because I think they would have to probably clean some house in terms of the front office before D'Amico would even think about going back there. Because I'm sure his playing days, he probably understands what that organization's all about. I'm just saying, if they knew what they were doing, if they were smart, he would be the guy I would target. But I definitely agree. That's not the best job to take, and I feel like he deserves a better job than that one.
I got some insider trading. I know who's going there. But ladies first, Carolina, who do you think is going to the Houston Texans? Who do you think would be their next head coach?
Well, first of all, I think the Houston Texans need to get their head out of their ass because they keep making these poor decisions where they blew everything up with Bill O'Brien when they let him go. And then you have the situation that they had with Lovie Smith. They let him go. One of my favorite coaches of all time, because I know that he's a very, very smart and talented coach. And I feel like he was a patsy, like JFK when he got murdered. And what was the guy's name? He was like, I'm a patsy.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald. He was a scapegoat. Lovie Smith was a scapegoat. I'm really disappointed with that decision to let him go. But apparently, people who follow the Texans, they say, clean house. It's not conducive to clean house, first of all, especially if you have coaches who are, they've had good records. Even in the past, I know that he could develop himself, but there's no talent on the Texans, with the exception of maybe one or two players, to let go of your coach so early on. So with that being said, I think D'Amico Ryans would be, crazy if he were to go to the Texans, because one, that organization is a dumpster fire. There's no way that I think he would think being a head coach at a dumpster fire of an organization is going to be a good move for him to improve. And I think what would be a good move if they decide to go as the Eagles defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon. I think that's a really good pick because he was already a finalist for the Texans top job last season. And he's been proven to be a top 5 when it comes to finishing in pass defense and takeaways, and then overseeing a new team record for combined sacks. So he has that development within himself to be able to coach up a team if he needs to. Eagles have a great defense also as well, and they've been proven themselves. And like I said, he clearly wants to be a head coach for a dumpster fire organization, especially if he was a candidate as a finalist last year. So even though the Eagles are a really good team, and that may be something that, like we said with D'Amico Ryans, that, he might not want to take it because it's a dumpster fire. The difference between him and this coach is that he already interviewed for them knowing that they were garbage. So maybe he just wants to be a head coach to prove himself.
Carolina, I told you I had insider trading. I know who was going there. And you literally took the words out of my mouth. I love it. Everything she spit was absolute facts. Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon is going to be the Texans' next head coach. He interviewed there twice last year. Let me just, and Godfrey, before you go, and I'll give you, if you think it's going to be somebody else, that's great. Do you think it's going to be Gannon because I think it's going to be Gannon.
I think it's going to be Gannon or someone to DBA, or to be determined, because it might be one of those jobs where people you got to take someone where they're not getting a shot anywhere else. So they're going to take it.
So the point I wanted to make was this, and you guys know I'm very open and very honest about this topic in the NFL, particularly with coaches. Jonathan Gannon was set to be the next coach of the Texans last year. And then the whole situation with Brian Flores went down where he sued the NFL. And the Houston Texans were involved with the situation with Deshaun Watson. And they literally, and there was no African-American coaches that were hired last year. And they went, okay, Houston, you're going to be a dumpster fire. Let's scapegoat. Let's hire Lovie Smith. Let's put him in there for a year. And then you can get rid of him and hire who you want to hire. There's 2 names that could possibly be the Houston Texans head coach. One of them is Jonathan Gannon. The other one, and this is a really creepy one, is Josh McCown. He interviewed there twice. former quarterback. They're looking, but listen, I'm telling you, this is why. You look at what happened, and you said it perfectly. Carolina, who was their head coach before David Culley and before Lovie Smith? You said it, Bill O'Brien. He was there for 6-7 years. They let him lose after lose, a 4-12 season with Deshaun Watson, and they kept his job. He
was a great GM too.
And they give
he was a GM. He gave away the whole farm and left the Texans in a messed up situation. But karma always comes back to people, and I think that's what the Texans deserve, because I think the heads up also are not my favorite either. So sometimes karma serves you.
Casario needs to go. If I'm a good head coach and I'm coming in there, I'm like, yo, I'm not doing it unless I bring in a guy I can work with. You know what I mean? So I feel like that job. So I feel bad for Lovie Smith, but I will say this. I think Lovie Smith knows what's going on. And the reason why he took that job is he knew it. I think he knew that was going to happen. We all did. But I think he wanted to show that he could still coach. And he did show that. I really do think he did. I'm not going off the record. I'm going off what he did with what he had. And, because people forget, he was not successful at all in college football at the Fighting in the Illini. Very bad record. And I think he can coach. And I think he said to himself, hey, let me show people I could still coach. And I think he can, based on what he had. I think they did David Culley dirty. David Culley is the prime example of what I was talking about. No one thought he wasn't on the coaching radar at all. And they're like, David Culley? And they hired him. He did. I'm glad that he got a shot, because he never did. But it was horrible how they expect him to do more with less again. And that organization just makes bad move after bad move. And, for you to get an established head coach in there, I think it's going to be tough. So you're either going to have to get a guy who's getting his first head coaching job, and the pool's become thinner now that Sean Payton's entered the ring, for a guy like Jonathan Gannon. And so you could get someone like him, or someone, again, that no one's really heard of or on the radar. And, it's there. I think it's interesting that a lot of people are interviewing Jim Caldwell, but I haven't seen him interview with the Texans.
It's about time. Jim Caldwell has 2 of the worst firings ever.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not interviewing with the Texans.
To the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning had a neck injury. He missed 1 season. They had a terrible season with a quarterback they weren't prepared to walk into the season with, and they axed Jim Caldwell. Then he takes the Lions to the playoffs. They're an awful call away from beating the Cowboys, one of the worst calls I've ever seen in playoff history. And they fired him from Detroit. But yet they sat there with Matt Patricia for how long? It's like African-American coaches in this league have short leash, and it's been proven time and time again. Organizations just pull the plug on them the moment they're it's not working out. You only took the Lions to the playoffs. They've sucked for the entire century, but it's not working out. We're just gonna have to let you go. Like, it's a joke.
I agree, and I think, I thought it was of note that I've seen Jim Caldwell interview with 3 teams, but he did not interview with the Texans. And I wonder if that's, hey, I wouldn't go there anyway. I don't care that I'm not coaching. And I got to think a guy like him isn't going to go there. And I wouldn't go there if I was him either. Because it's not a real shot, because you're playing with bad ownership. So
Well, let's spin the wheel, Carolina. What team we going with next?
Let's go with the Cardinals.
Cliff Kingsbury. So if you guys have been listening to me for the last 2 years, I've told you 2 years ago, Cliff Kingsbury is literally fugazi. He's fraudulent. He's been the most fraud. You talk about a guy that couldn't win 8 games with Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. He couldn't win 8 games with Patrick Mahomes. Goes over to Arizona, gets the number 1 draft pick, gets Kyler Murray, and by all accounts, Kyler Murray has regressed, has went backwards since he's been in the league. So thank God, here's an organization where you have a franchise quarterback coming off an ACL tear. You have J.J. Watt retiring. You have not many pieces. DeAndre Hopkins wants out of town. I don't think this is a great job. But I'll tell you what I got listed for it. Because they're a good organization. Not a great job, good organization. What they did with Larry Fitzgerald, Bruce Arians. I think this is where DeMeco Ryans goes. I think DeMeco Ryans stays in-house in the division with a couple young defensive stars. You have Isaiah Simmons that plays over there. you have the ability to build from within. You have a franchise quarterback, and I think DeMeco Ryans is the perfect type of head coach to coach Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray doesn't need someone that's going to put a bottle in his mouth, a pacifier, and be like, oh, Kyler, it's okay. Do whatever you want. He needs a hard-nosed defensive coordinator type guy like DeMeco Ryans. You hire an offensive coordinator, the head coach gets in his grill and lets him know what time it is. And if Kyler's not the guy, you live by the coach, not by the quarterback. I don't care if you paid him. You just paid Cliff Kingsbury this year, and you let him go 10 months afterwards. Carolina, since you brought the Cardinals up, what do you think goes there?
Okay, personally, the ideal candidate for the Cardinals for me would be the Lions offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, because the Cardinals put a lot of money behind Kyler Murray, and to build around him is probably going to be their number one priority. And they put so much time and effort into him as a quarterback, and he has a lot of potential because he's a very versatile type of quarterback. I think that Ben Johnson could be a fit for him because they were able to build Detroit's offense in 2022, and they were able to get the Lions to accustomed to Jared Goff's strengths. So I think he's already accustomed to a culture where they're building an offense, making things grow from that perspective. So I would pick somebody like him to fall in line with the Cardinals because of that reason, able to build up Kyler Murray, able to build around that offense, able to build the culture, if that's something that he's interested in. So that would be my pick, somebody with a strong offensive game, and that would be Ben Johnson from the Lions.
It's a great pick. Ben Johnson had a great year. You want to talk about somebody that was a resurgence to Jared Goff's career. That Lions team was a half a game away from making the playoffs. They prolific on offense. Their defense let them down for most of the year, and then the defense got it together. You're talking about a team that had a ton of ex-NFL players on their coaching staff, from Deuce Staley to Hank Fraley to Aaron Glenn to Dan Campbell being their head coach. That's a great organization to build from, and if DeMeco Ryans doesn't go there, 100% Ben Johnson's on my short list. Godfrey, you're next. Who you got?
So I think this is where the Eagles' offensive coordinator is going, Shane Steichen.
Shane Steichen.
Because this is why. Listen, they invested a lot of money in Kyler Murray. He's going to be hurt. He's not going to. I'm assuming he's going to miss at least half the year, be on IR rehabbing because he got injured late in the year. They're going to look at what's happened with Jalen Hurts and say, we need that in Arizona. We need someone to develop him. The only caveat there is, I do think Kyler Murray would benefit from more of a veteran head coach, because someone needs to come in and be like, listen, we don't really care. If you don't do this, you're benched. You got to prepare like everybody else on the team. I think they codified him too much and said, oh, you can help the coach pick. They gave him too much input. They didn't make him earn anything. And you're married to this guy for a while. So, whatever coaching staff you build, there's got to be some strong-willed people in there. Maybe he has a veteran QB coach that comes with him that's going to be like, I'm not impressed by you, Kyler. And let him know, like, hey, you're in the pros, not college. And Shane Steichen might be able to help develop this kid. And I think that'd be a good landing spot for him because, listen, everybody wants to start quarterback.
You're segueing me, brother. You're segueing me. I need Kyle's answer, but you're segueing into where I want to go. I get to pick the next one because I know where I want to go because you're talking about Shane Steichen, and I think there's a perfect landing spot for him. I just don't think it's Arizona. Kyle, who do you got in Arizona?
I'm kind of leaning towards Godfrey on this one. I think if you look at what he did with Hurts, what he could possibly do with Kyler Murray, I feel like that's kind of similar there with, skill set, and it would make a lot of sense for him to go there. I do worry if Kyler Murray probably needs a more veteran coach because all the stuff that we keep hearing about him, not watching game film and all that kind of stuff. He probably needs a disciplinarian with that kind of background and that history of leading a couple of teams, but I think Steichen would work there.
Okay, so because you guys both brought off Shane Steichen, I get to pick the next team. I'm picking the Denver Broncos, and that's where I think Shane Steichen goes. I think everything you said about him developing Jalen Hurts and being a mobile quarterback, being able to help research Russell Wilson's career. Russell Wilson, they're tied to Russell Wilson. So they literally put a pocket passer in Nathaniel Hackett, who they were expecting Aaron Rodgers there, to build a system that he had for Aaron Rodgers for Russell Wilson. Did you guys notice how much better Russell Wilson looked the last 2 games of the season without Nathaniel Hackett? My eyes, we were all saying Russell's cooked. That's not what he was cooking, right? The last 2 games, Russell Wilson looked like Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, the Broncos are married to him. It's a lot of guaranteed money. They're going to bring a guy in like Shane Steichen, who has the ability to build an offense around a mobile quarterback, like they did with Jalen Hurts. I really believe that's where Steichen goes. Kyle, what do you think on that one? Denver.
I mean, that's a good choice. I mean, I kind of thought if they wanted to, with them already having a really good defense, if DeMeco Ryans wanted to go there, I wouldn't be surprised. But we kind of know Denver's history with, Elway and all that. But I feel like they changed their front office, though, right?
Yeah, the owner. I think the owner of Walmart, the person that owns Walmart, bought the team.
Okay, so
his name, but I'm 90% sure that's who bought the team. But I don't.
No, it's 100%. He basically flips off Stan Kroenke because that's his brother-in-law when they go to go to family gatherings or whatever. He's a Walton heiress. He's richer than beyond belief. Yeah, so
I need that money. Kyle, you got Nico Ryans going there, even with Elway's history.
Yeah, because I think with that defense and with DeMeco Ryans, what he's done with the Niners defense, I feel like he could take that defense to another level. And with the offensive weapons that are there, all he'd have to do is bring in an offensive coordinator to fit Russell Wilson's talent instead of what Hackett was trying to do, fit Wilson into Aaron Rodgers, skill set. So I think that's a really good job for him. And like you said, with his pedigree in San Francisco, I think he deserves one of the top jobs. And I think Denver's one of the better ones.
Denver is one of the better jobs, 100%. Carolina, who you got going to Denver?
Yo, I had my idea of who I was going to Denver, but I really like your bullet points about Steichen and why he should go. So I kind of want to change mine to Steichen. I'm sold on that. You guys, made me want to buy into that. I want to buy some stock. So yeah, definitely Steichen is somebody that I would want to go with. But since we're here already and I already have my pick, which I don't think is nearly as good as the idea of Steichen. So I'm going to give you guys that one. I think for me, I would have gone with Sean Payton. Only reason why is because Russell Wilson already said this is the person that he wants to go with, one of the head coaching candidates that he would be interested in, because there was also Dan Quinn on that list. The difference between Dan Quinn and Sean Payton is that Sean Payton can work with experienced quarterbacks. He's an experienced head coach. He's had his success in the NFL. He's won Super Bowls. Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer now. He's been able to, he did even experiments with other quarterbacks. He can build coaching staff. He has a great offensive mind. And I really think that he would be a great fit for somebody like a Russell Wilson, like you guys who is trying to revive his career, as opposed to somebody like Dan Quinn, who people mentioned. Dan Quinn was with the Atlanta Falcons. Dan Quinn, that went straight to the ground. Now, you can always say that's because Matt Ryan is garbage or whatever the case may be, but I feel like Dan Quinn is more of a defensive-minded coordinator, and he hasn't really proven himself on the offensive side of the ball. So if Russell Wilson is looking for somebody who's going to develop him as an offensive-minded coach, I'm going to go with Sean Payton. But the issue is that you would have to buy him out of his contract with the Saints. It's going to be a lot of money. And also Sean Payton wants to jump ship every time cap space is involved, or if there's roster changes, or they're limited on any type of picks of that nature. So because of those cons, I would pick Steichen over what you said, Steichen over Sean Payton.
I think the issue with Sean Payton. Sorry, I apologize. I think the issue with Sean Payton is the fact that they have to trade for him, and the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, you got to get a lot of picks for that.
They don't have a first-round draft pick either. They lost that in the Seattle Seahawks trade.
Yeah, so it's not. It doesn't make sense to work out. But like I said, I'm all in for the Steichen deal. That sounds way more conducive to what can be done for the Broncos for their future, rather than going the Sean Payton route.
Godfrey.
So I think Sean Payton could fit there, but I don't see it happening because the caveat here with Sean Payton is, and we talked about this on Birds Deep, is it might cost you a first-round pick to get this guy, right? And the Broncos don't have first-round picks, so that if it's going to command something like that, and that's the caveat, maybe it's a second-round pick or something, some other form of compensation. But I do think Sean Payton likes to go into a cushy situation. Sean McVay took a lesson from Sean Payton of how to bail out on your team after things start to get ugly. So, yeah. And I think, for them, I would go Dan Quinn. Here's the thing about Dan Quinn. He was a defensive guy, right? Always was. His players played for him in Atlanta, and they had a bad end of the season. I think that their offensive coordinator at the time was not helping him, not doing him any favors. The way he game planned for him, and I just think Dan Quinn has some gravitas in there to be a head coach. I thought that Dan Quinn was going to eventually take Mike McCarthy's job, which I think will go later. Maybe happens, maybe don't. And that's I got to leave someone on the sideline for that job, but I'm going Dan Quinn for the Broncos.
Godfrey, I want to help you with that one. Dan Quinn's offensive coordinator when they went to the Super Bowl was Kyle Shanahan. He left. And as soon as he left, they went downhill. They hired Steve Sarkisian, who for years on top of years has underperformed at every level. He was Alabama's offensive coordinator. Now he's Texas's head coach. Sark has been one of those guys that when the expectations are high, he's always looked about very highly because he's been around Nick Saban, and Sark's been around a USC job. But Sark's never lived up to expectations of what his name was, what people expect him to be. And I agree with you. I think his offense coordinator really killed him. But I will say this, the biggest blemish I remember on Dan Quinn, and you can call this on Kyle Shanahan or you can call this on Dan Quinn. After Julio Jones catches that ball on the sideline, that ridiculous catch in the Super Bowl versus the Patriots, I don't even care if you kneel the ball 3 times. You run the ball up the middle 3 times, you kick a field goal, the Super Bowl is over. What the hell were they thinking? They're at the 24-yard line. What the hell were they thinking?
Do you think that, people learn from their mistakes, though?
They do.
Maybe he learned from his mistakes. He's never going to do something like it, make mental mistakes ever again because of that experience.
You're absolutely correct. I'm also a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and Dan Quinn is a Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. So I have to hate him. So there's going to be a little bit of hate, a little bit less biased, a little bit more biased here. But you're probably right. Are you a Cowboys fan, Carolina? You're from Texas.
No, I'm a Bears fan. But I will say this, the Philadelphia Eagles, remember how they beat them earlier in the season? They beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
They were able to do that by successfully isolating Micah Parsons and not letting him go the entire game. He was basically non-existent. The Philadelphia Eagles were able to effectively shut down Dan Quinn's defense. So it can be done. So all I'm saying is this. Yes, his defense is good, but it's not something that you can't shut down. They have issues with their rush defense as well. So there are some holes in that system already that you see, even though the roster on the Dallas Cowboys defense is really talented. That's something that you also have to consider too when you're considering hiring Dan Quinn as a head coach. You've seen the mistakes that he made with the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl. And although I just said you can learn from your mistakes, there's also that what we see currently right now in the NFL with what he's doing. He's not necessarily, he's a great defensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong. He's proven himself time and time again. He may not be perfect for a head coach job though. And especially if you already have these issues, and I don't think it's a talent issue. I think it's more so, mistakes with their defensive schemes. Even though there's issues on their defense, imagine if you throw in an offense on there too. So, I could see him going back to being a head coach, but I feel like he's more, fit in a position for staying as a defensive coordinator. I'm sorry.
He would be the highest paid defensive coordinator, being defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones is going to keep the checkbook open as long as that Dallas defense is improving.
I know that's right.
Here's the thing. That's the perfect thing for the Broncos is to make a hire that's just not right because that's what they do.
Right.
So
All right. So the next one on the docket, we go back to you, Godfrey. Give me a team. We have two available left. We have the Panthers and the Colts.
all right, let's go with I'll go with the Panthers for 500, Alex.
All right. So why don't you start us then? Give us who the Panthers' next head coach is going to be.
So, I think this guy should get a really fair shot because I think he did a good job with having garbage to work with. I think Wilkes did a decent job. He got that team to play for him. Yeah, PJ Walker at quarterback at one point. Like, please, give me a break. Contended for the division. I know the Buccaneers had to play down for that to happen, but they still have meaningful games at the end of the year. But who I think ultimately will be the head coach, I think Jim Caldwell, that'd be a good space for him to go. I think, they need a veteran coach that's proven. There's some talent on that team still. And I think Jim Caldwell, he has interviewed with them. I think he's got a good shot there. And I would like to see Jim Caldwell as a Carolina Panther head coach.
So Jim Caldwell is a great name. I think he's one of the most underrated coaches in the last 10 years. I really believe that. You're talking about a guy that got let go from two different opportunities. That was absolutely blasphemous. So I will see your Jim Caldwell, and I will raise you another coach that got let go from an awful opportunity that, in my opinion, is a top 10 head coach in football, and he's sitting as a linebackers coach in Pittsburgh. Give me Brian Flores for 1,000. Brian Flores, in my opinion, was a top 5 coach in the NFL, taking that Miami Dolphins team. Do you remember his first game as an NFL head coach? 59-7, the Ravens beat them. They were having you remember the meme? The Dolphins lost to the bye week 63-0. You guys remember that? They had the week 3, they had the early bye in the season. They were awful.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Flores turned that team around and made that team 6-10. Okay. The next year he came back and made them 9-8, above 500. With a quarterback he didn't want. It's very notable. He wanted Deshaun Watson. He wanted Justin Herbert. The GM gave him neither. Brian Flores got in arguments with Stephen Ross for not breaking code and breaking the law by having Tom Brady and come in on Stephen Ross's private boat. Brian Flores is a man of morals, a man of stature, and a great NFL head coach. I think he'll be the next coach of the Carolina Panthers. And I think it's only right for Carolina to go next on the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to pun on your name all night. Carolina Teague, go ahead.
I like the idea of Brian Flores. I feel like he deserves that opportunity to be with an organization that isn't crappy like the Dolphins, where they did his discrimination lawsuit and all those things. And I feel like sometimes when you file a lawsuit, especially when it comes to racial discrimination, you can kind of get like an asterisk over you, if you will, or people might look at you even though they might not say it. That's what happens anytime somebody stands up for themselves. They might lose opportunities because of that. I think he did the right thing by doing what he did, but I think he deserves another opportunity as head coach. And I think that would be a great fit for him because no one is more deserving of an opportunity than he is, especially to do the right thing with an organization that isn't necessarily, well, it could be deemed as toxic. I wouldn't say racially discriminate, like as far as racial discrimination, toxic. I mean, they have, gone since Tepper purchased the team, they're 29-53. So they do have a losing record. They do have those contracts where they've had coaches with large contracts with no experience who've done really bad and they fire them, but at least they give them opportunities. I don't see any news in regards to toxicity as far as the culture is concerned with the organization. So I think that would be a good opportunity for him. He can make some money too.
I think the toxicity was Matt Rule, who was one of the worst hires that was made in the NFL. You want to talk about a guy? I remember watching Matt Rule at Temple. And if listen, I'm a Philadelphia guy. I remember the golden years at Temple. And I'm not talking about the golden years like the 70s. I'm talking about Al Golden. Al Golden was the coach at Temple before he went down to the U. Matt Rule wasn't that good at Temple. let's not lie to ourselves because they made game day. They had everybody. And then he got a job at Baylor, did okay there for a couple of years, and all of a sudden he was the coach of the Carolina Panthers. It's a true rags to riches story that I don't necessarily think he ever earned it. Who's Carolina's next head coach, Kyle?
I'm kind of on board with Wilkes. I feel like everything he dealt with this year, the team played really well. They were in it until the end. Yeah, the division wasn't that good, but he dealt with that quarterback carousel. PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. I mean, Sam Darnold actually looked pretty decent the last couple of weeks, and you got to give Wilkes credit for that. They have some talent there defensively, and I feel like he should get a fair shot at that one. I think he did well for everything considered.
All right, well, last one on the docket, and then we'll give a wild card. And what the wild card is at the end, just in case you guys don't know, is it's a team that has not fired their head coach yet, but you predict that happening in the future. So the Indianapolis Colts are last on our quarterback carousel today. Kyle, start us off.
First, I gotta say, I think it's hilarious. Jeff Saturday's in considerations for that job. I mean, 1-7. He already didn't deserve the job to begin with, and now they're gonna whatever. This is an interesting one because I could probably look at the Lions offensive guy, Ben Johnson, going there. They will definitely need a quarterback. Hopefully, they don't do this retread thing again. I feel like they failed at that miserably. So you bring him there, give him a young quarterback, let them develop. I mean, I don't know what it's like to work for Jim Irsay. I feel like he's been acting kind of weird the past few years, and I kind of wonder how attractive that job is because of him. And I think because of that, he'd probably have to get a first-time guy. So I'd go Ben Johnson.
I have, and I'll go. We're going to go to Carolina next on this one, but I just want to make a comment. At the end of this, I'll give you my list of NFL owners I would never work for because of the situation and everything. Not even owners, just franchises, the way they handle situations. Like Elway coming in liquored up an hour late to the Flores interview last year. Like, what are we doing, right? Like, you're allowing that to just so we can fulfill our Rooney Rule obligation. Absolute joke. Stephen Ross, Daniel Snyder, Jim Irsay, Jerry Jones. The list goes on and on. These are not good people. And listen, I apologize. She might beat me up. But the House McCaskey family has not done any favors to Chicago until maybe at least last year. Ryan Pace, Matty Eberflus, okay. Justin Fields. I'm starting to get on board with Chicago. You didn't see it earlier, Carolina. I had a free Justin Fields shirt because I don't believe he deserves to be in a city like Chicago. I believe Justin Fields deserves to be a franchise quarterback for an organization that's going to surround him with weapons and an offensive line. I hope Chicago does that now. They have $112 million in cap space. I hope they do that now. But that kid does not want to waste his career getting beat up behind an awful offensive line and no receiving core. But we're not talking about the Bears right now. We're not talking about the Bears.
Can we talk about them real quick, or we're going to talk about them later? Like, I need to say what I feel.
I promise you, as soon as we're done with the coaching carousel, we'll go to the Bears before we go to Wild Card Weekend.
We got to. Because I got something to say. I got something to say. Death Row got something to say.
I love it. Who's the Colts' next head coach?
Man, I really think, between, everything you guys said, I'm going to go ahead and go with Ben Johnson, too. I see Ben Johnson being my guy for that. I feel like Ben Johnson is a good candidate for the Indianapolis Colts, to be honest with you. I think that he's, like I said, he was able to help Jared Goff evolve his game. He's had an explosive year. It's been his best year since he was a Pro Bowler, and they, performed really well with the running game. And, he's going to be finishing his year. This is his first year as offensive coordinator. He's going to be finishing 9-8. But he's worked with the Miami Dolphins. He's been an assistant on offense for quarterbacks, tight ends. He was a wide receivers coach. He has all that experience, and the Colts could really benefit from somebody with an offensive mind. So I would really like Ben Johnson to be a head coach somewhere. I think it's inevitable that Ben Johnson is going to be a head coach somewhere someday. I just don't know where.
Godfrey, who we going with?
I think this is where Jonathan Gannon ends up.
Okay.
He was a coach there. Irsay likes familiarity with his Saturday hiring. It's a first-time coach. If he doesn't hire Saturday, who knows what Irsay? I mean, he doesn't get a lot of heat because he's in Indianapolis. Like 10 people live there. I mean, let's be real. Like, it's like a top 30 media market, maybe. So if he was in a major city, Jim Irsay would be getting roasted. But he's under the cover of Indianapolis, and I think Gannon will go there. They got some defensive pieces in place. You got I believe Leonard's still on the team next year. I think he's still under contract, and they're going to get a quarterback. So if I'm him and I'm getting considered for the Texans and a Colts job, I'm going to where's more familiar with me, and I'm going to coach for the devil I do know, and I'm going to go to Indianapolis.
No way he goes back on his old buddy. No way he goes back on his old buddy Frank Wright and the way they treat him. I'll tell you that right now. I'm 100% sure that's not the coach. I'll tell you who their coach is going to be, though. Jim Irsay is such a prick that he's going to go make a splash hire at head coach. And Michigan's own Jim Harbaugh will be their next coach. And I think they're going to draft Will Levis in the first round with the number 5 overall pick, if not trade up for him. And he'll have his franchise quarterback, and he'll be able to build a team that has a running game with Jonathan Taylor and a decent defense in place. I really believe Jim Harbaugh gets swayed away from college to go coach the Indianapolis Colts.
You think he wants to coach for that guy after? I know he played for him.
That's what I wonder.
Played there.
Yeah, but he played there when he was barely a starting QB. I mean, Harbaugh was a decent starting QB, but he wasn't like an all-pro.
He was Stephen Ross. Stephen Ross's ties with Michigan have been very noted. He was going to play for Stephen Ross, and if there's an owner that's worse than Jim Irsay, it's Stephen Ross.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's Jim Harbaugh. I really believe that.
That could happen. I think he would take C.J. Stroud over Will Levis, in my opinion, but
I don't think so. I think that they hate the Michigan-Ohio State hate. And by the way, there was a report that came out of Ohio State today that C.J. Stroud might be going back to school, which would be such a bad idea. Now, here's your wild card. I'm going to start with mine because I waited on him. You guys all use Sean Payton. I
didn't use Sean Payton.
I didn't use it either.
I waited on him because I'm telling you right now, tomorrow night at tomorrow night, it's Thursday. Saturday night at 8:15, Dougie P and Trevor Lawrence are going to knock out the Los Angeles Chargers, and Brandon Staley is going to get kicked to the curb like he should, and Sean Payton is going to get his Justin Herbert. He's going to get his young Drew Brees and start another 10-year run as an NFL head coach with an elite franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert, and the entire NFL will need to watch out because that's the perfect landing spot for Justin Herbert. I'll tell you right now, if I'm the Chargers organization, and we're in SoFi, right? We're in this rich stadium. We just moved there. We need to make a splash. We got a Justin Herbert at quarterback. We have an offense that's built perfectly. Sean Payton's the guy. Sean Payton's the guy.
I could see that, but I will counter you with this.
Okay.
The Spanos are not known for being a great ownership group as well.
Right.
So, I mean, I have a wild card pick too, but yeah, I could see it. It's definitely not out of the question.
Give me your wild card. We're going to end on Carolina because Carolina's going to start the Bears talk.
No,
I'm sorry, Godfrey, go ahead.
The wild card.
We're going to end on you because you're going to start the Bears talk, so you'll be fourth on this one.
I think Sean Payton's going to be the Cowboys head coach after the Cowboys get eliminated because, remember, he used to coach on the Cowboys. And I think the owner that has the balls to trade a first-round pick for a coach is Jerry Jones. And I think he'll do it, and he'll back up the Brinks truck, and that has Jerry Jones written all over it. Because if they do get eliminated, which I do think they will, if they don't get to the NFC Championship game, I think McCarthy's gone. Truly, I really do.
Okay.
And you might think I'm crazy, but Jerry's crazy. That's why the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time. So,
Kyle, give me your wild card pick.
I think Payton for the Chargers makes too much sense. I think that's the job he's holding out for because Herbert, he could do wonders with him. So yeah, I think Payton to Chargers makes way too much sense. But I could see him at Dallas because we know Jerry Jones loves to make headlines. So, but no.
Carolina, who's your wild card?
So wild card, you mean like the wild card games, or you mean like wild card, like who am I? I'm a little confused.
So the Commanders are probably going to fire Ron Rivera. A coach that hasn't been fired yet, that's going to be fired during this playoff stretch. So I like for instance, Mike McCarthy, Brandon Staley, a wild card situation that could happen. I'm sorry if we didn't prepare you for that part.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, that's okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I would say, oh, this is a really tough one. Um, Ron Rivera, yeah, I would think that that might be one for the Commanders. Only, well, they are the Achilles heel for the Cowboys. It seems like. I mean, they had that great game, but I mean, it was because everything they had going on. They had the backup, they have the quarterback situation, but they've been kind of garbage juice. So Ron Rivera, that would be something where I would be like, okay, I could see him getting fired. So that would be my wild card. I don't think it would be Mike McCarthy getting fired because I don't know where you guys are from. Are you guys from Texas? Like, where are you guys from?
I'm from Philly.
You're from Philly. Are you all Boston? Okay, where are you from? Y'all are from. Okay, so here in Texas, Mike McCarthy's like a god, a football god. Like everybody, just like the media here, just like shines a bright light. I know it's crazy, right? Because I've always had my gripes about him since he was a coach for the Packers. He wasn't able to be successful with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Aaron Rodgers, and the organization did not do Aaron Rodgers right, by the way, because they did not get anybody in their draft picks on the offensive side of the ball until they got his predecessor right after, or his backup. Finally, they always drafted on the defensive side of the ball. Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers really didn't get along. Then he comes to Dallas and everybody puts him on this pedestal. He said he's changed, he's running the ball a whole lot more, and then they here, and then now they have a winning record, right? After they have a great offensive year, one of the best offenses the past 2 years ago, they had one of the best offenses. They really put Mike McCarthy on a huge pedestal. I do not see them firing Mike McCarthy here because they are drinking the goddamn Mike McCarthy Kool-Aid.
I'm putting my bottle of water up and I'm going to sit back because it's time for Carolina to talk about her Chicago Bears. And the Bears, in my opinion, I've said this on the show multiple times, I think they're a terrible organization. Now, if they've changed recently within the last year, drafting Justin Fields, Ryan Pace, Matt Eberflus, I'm on board with that, right? I'm on board with believing that. I want to see them spend that $112 million in cap for an offensive line, for some receivers for Justin Fields. I want to see that. They just traded pick 32 for Chase Claypool. Guy's Finding Nemo. Like, he's never around. So Carolina, I'm going to sit back in my bottle of water. I'm going to relax, and I want to hear you sound off on your Chicago Bears.
All I want to say is that they're collecting infinity stones like Thanos. Like I said, I know how you had said, you like the moves that they made because they got Justin Fields, one of the biggest clouds over the Chicago Bears head for years and years and years. Same thing with the Cowboys too, by the way. They wouldn't hire a black quarterback. They hired Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff. So then they finally get the black quarterback, and he's really, really good. He finally gave Chicago hope, but I don't think that was the answer, and I don't think he was the reason why I think Chicago has a bright future. The real reason that I think Chicago has a bright future is because they finally fired the person who I think has been responsible for the failure of this organization for the longest time, and that is the CEO, Ted Phillips. I don't know how you hire somebody as the president of football operations for a company, and your main job role is to be an accountant, and you have to hire somebody from an external camp to be able to make your picks for who the GM's going to be, to make the coaching picks. And then he had his hand in the hiring of Mark Trestman. They fired Lovie Smith after he had a winning record. It was his hands in the cookie jar that made that Bears organization crumble like a cookie. That's all I'm gonna say. With the exception of with firing Lovie Smith, getting Mark Trestman in those dark years. Then you had John Fox, who was super conservative. Then you had Matt Nagy, who got exposed after his first year, after he won NFL Coach of the Year, he got exposed his offense, and then he tried to get cute on the offensive plays. Now you have Eberflus, great guy, but I think the main thing is they finally got rid of Ted Phillips. George McCaskey has made terrible hires. They really ran that this organization has been ran to the ground because of that, and also too they now have the number 1 NFL draft pick because the Texans, Lovie Smith, he's competing to win. They beat the Colts 32-31. And Chicago Bears magically got the number 1 NFL draft pick. So I was happy about that. They have $119 million in cap space. They could literally eat up a veteran contract if they needed to and get that wide receiver core that the Chicago Bears so desperately need. And he most importantly needs some offensive protection as well because he's always scrambling the ball. He's actually broken the Bears record for quarterback with the most rushing yards for their franchise, which is a great record, by the way.
He was 60 away from breaking the NFL record.
So because he has to run his ass off because there's nobody there to protect him. Lucky for him, he's mobile and he's a quarterback that, imagine if he had the protection that he needed, he could be that guy that is the saving grace for the city of Chicago. He represents hope. He represents winning. He represents somebody who's driven. He did great with Ohio State. I love him. But like I said, I'm really, really excited. Nobody believes me, but I think that firing of Ted Phillips is the dawn of a new day. So I'm really excited.
I believe you. You obviously know your Chicago Bears stuff. I've been following the Chicago. I follow every team in the NFL. I'm an absolute NFL junkie. There's a reason that I have all 22. I watch every game every week. I go to sleep watching every game, like the 30-minute breakdown, play-by-play. I watch tape all the time. And watching what Justin Fields had to deal with this year was criminal.
Yeah.
It was criminal. Now
it's criminal, but it's not Joe Burrow first year criminal.
So I think it's actually worse.
You think so?
Yes. Joe Burrow at least had a wide receiver to throw the football to.
Justin Fields is I think he's gonna listen. I've been high on him. I thought coming out of college I thought the Niners were insane for not taking him. And I was like, what is going on?
If the Jets would have took Justin Fields, the Jets will be not only playing this weekend, they might have a bye this weekend. That's how much better the Jets would be with Justin Fields.
I think I would. Oh, sorry. Let me just say this real quick. I think Joe Burrow had it a lot harder because he got sacked way more than any other quarterback in the NFL in his first year. So that's why I say he had it a lot harder.
The difference is he didn't have legs like Justin Fields did. The difference is he didn't have legs like Justin Fields did.
It doesn't matter. I think they still did him a disservice, the offensive line, because they weren't able to protect him. So building that offensive line is crucial. So I think between Justin Fields and his first year and Joe Burrow, I think Joe Burrow had a lot harder because he was getting sacked all the time. Now, he did have a wide receiver, like you said, but Justin Fields also had a running game with Monty. I think Monty's been one of my favorite running backs, and he's been really effective. So I would have to say between the both of them, I think, well, first of all, this isn't a contest. I don't think any quarterback should be getting sacked as much as they goddamn do, okay? But I think the whole point is build that offensive line. They got $119 million in cap space. If I'm not mistaken, that's the most in the NFL. It is, right? It's the most in the NFL.
That's $30 million.
Yeah, it is, right? It is by like $30 million. There you go. You just reminded me. Most cap space in the NFL, the number 1 draft pick, like I said, just make the right decisions. And the main decision is the Ted Phillips decision.
This is the best quarterback the Bears have had. It's going to end up being the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. And I'll say that right now. And I want to go in on Bears fans right now. I'm so annoyed this week. I was arguing with a friend who said to me, if Justin Fields retired and Mac Jones had a better career so far. I told him he was out of his mind. And I went off on him for like 10 minutes. I yelled at him. I said, Bears fans remind me of Eagles fans last year. And I was a doubter of Jalen Hurts. And I think the Bears could ascend up to be the Eagles. Maybe not 14 wins, but be a playoff contender. Because when you look at the Bears and you look at Justin Fields and what the kid has done, he's working with what he has. And the thing about Justin Fields that blows my mind is people are like, well, he can't pass the ball. They keep talking about a 7-for-21 game in a meaningless game that they took him out. I'm like, stop. He improved year over year. If you look at Josh Allen's numbers, it's the same trajectory. You look at Jalen Hurts' numbers. a similar trajectory. Okay, so you guys got the number 1 pick, and when I'm hearing this talk of, well, you should trade Justin Fields, draft another quarterback, and get more picks, that is the most asinine thing I've ever heard. I've heard a lot of national pundits saying it. Mike Tannenbaum said it. There's a reason why you're not a GM anymore, Mike Tannenbaum. You've been fired twice, my guy. It's because you make stupid moves like that. He's trying to make a hot take. He's awful. But at the end of the day, when you talk about the Bears and Justin Fields, the kid's completion percentage went up. His QBR went up year over year. His interceptions went down.
No receivers. Nobody. Darnell Mooney and the ghost of Chase Claypool.
He fumbled the ball 9 times, but didn't lose 1 fumble, which was inexplicable. He didn't have his turnovers went down. He can throw the ball. And I say to the Bears fans, look at the jump that Jalen Hurts made when they got an A.J. Brown. You don't know what could happen. It wasn't on my radar for a trade as an Eagles fan when it happened at the draft. I don't know about Eugene if you knew about it, but I didn't. And look at the jump it helped Jalen Hurts make. And I was skeptical as all hell of Jalen Hurts being able to pass based on what I saw on the field. And I will say to you guys that are Bears fans, you need to embrace it because this kid is the prototypical quarterback that you need in the NFL right now. That's the type you need to win. And I'm like, when I hear Bear fans say this, I'm like, are you insane? Are you like people have to get off this mountain of you need a pocket passing quarterback. No, that's gone. That was the 90s and maybe to the mid 2000s. Those guys are dinosaurs and they're getting their ass kicked by the more athletic defensive players. You need a guy that could chuck it and throw it or decide to throw it. Or, like the Mahomes types, the Fields types, like Fields is going to be up there. And if you put a good defense around him, and by the way, they're going to take a defensive player because Eberflus is a defensive line coach.
Godfrey, I want to ask Carolina, who do you want with the first overall pick? There's two names that I'll accept. You can tell me Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama, the edge rusher, or you can tell me Jalen Carter, the absolute destructive defensive tackle from Georgia. But that number 1 pick is going to be one of those 2 players. I just want to know who would you rather have?
Who's the first person you said? Because that's the one that I was going to go with.
Will Anderson Jr.
Yeah. That's who I was going to go with too. Will Anderson Jr. Definitely. Screw the defense.
He did both of them. He's an edge rusher from Bama.
Well, he's an edge rusher. I'm sorry. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you got to go with the best one, but
they're both amazing. They're both.
I mean,
Monday night Carter showed how good he is. So
Jalen Carter dominated the national championship.
Yeah, I would say as much as I don't want somebody like that, I mean, it would be gross negligence. Not to do that. So I would say, yeah, that would definitely be Will Anderson would be at the top of my list. And then, but I have a question for you guys. I really think that the Bears should get DeAndre Hopkins. I'm really hell-bent on that.
I literally was just about to ask you that question.
I am so
my next question.
I will cry.
I think Nuke going to Chicago is the move. I think they have the
cap space. They're gonna get a number 1 pick.
You need to get out of my head, Carolina. Get out of my head.
Yeah.
You're in my head.
We're right there. But let me ask you this because I don't have an answer to this question. So I want to ask you guys. You said Chase Claypool, he's been the ghost. I agree with you guys. I've read articles about Chase Claypool. He's been with Justin Fields. They stay afterwards with Darnell Mooney and the other wide receivers. He's been with them. He came in last minute. He's been with them every single week. After practice, staying late, trying to get accustomed to their scheme because he's not familiar with it. I think that's one of the reasons why he's a ghost because, he has to get acclimated to their environment. He's not going to come out guns blazing, even though some of them do. Do you think that's why he is kind of saturated in the back and kind of fall into the back burner because he isn't acclimated to the scheme? Or what are your guys' thoughts? Because that's been the main thing on my mind. Where is Chase Claypool? Because this was somebody that I was excited about. I'm hoping he, appears next season, but I'm not going to bank on that. I really want DeAndre Hopkins, but I want to ask about Chase Claypool.
Why can't you have both?
We got correct.
I'm all in on Chase Claypool, and people criticize the trade. I've been a Chase Claypool fan coming out of college. Thought he was a pro-ready receiver. He had a good first year, and they say where was he? He was lost at Pittsburgh, and a lot of receivers were lost at Pittsburgh. Deontay Johnson's a good receiver. He has no touchdowns this year. Was that his fault? Or was it because they had bad quarterback play and they got a young kid learning on the job? I think he's got potential.
Godfrey, they're going to have both.
Both is good.
The way you make Chase Claypool good is you put a bona fide number 1 wide receiver next to him.
I'm all about it.
I think
I'm
that
praying that they get him. Praying every night before I go to bed. I say, please, Jesus,
You don't want Dante Pettis to be the number one still?
guys, it's 8:01. We got to move to wild card weekend. We got 6 games to go over, and we're running out of time. I get it. Some of the games are super easy, and we won't spend too much time on, but we're going to do them in order.
we should just do fast takes, like quick picks, like the lotto.
Well, 3 of them we can. For the first game, 4:30, should be a snooze fest, right? Should be a snooze fest. San Francisco 49ers, 10-point favorites versus the Seattle Seahawks. Anybody see this being a good football game?
I think it's going to be closer to people think. I think the playoffs are going to be a different animal. I think they win. I just don't see. I don't think the Niners are going to win by 9.5. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's probably a touchdown game, but I think, I've said on here, I think the Niners are probably my team in the NFC. I just think that defense will be able to mask whatever issues Brock Purdy may have. Although he's looked pretty good so far, I got to give him a lot of credit. But you also have to give Shanahan credit for that, for shaping the game plan to fit Purdy's skills. But yeah, but third time against Seattle, I think it's a lot to ask of that being like a blowout or anything. I think Seattle will keep it close.
Is Purdy still texting you, Gene?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think San Fran wins a close one. I think Seattle really has them on the ropes. I really believe that. Pete Carroll had a press conference a couple days ago. I think it was yesterday. And he's like, oh, man, we got San Fran. They're just so good. And, like, you could hear him talking. It was like, oh, you ever see a guy that has, like, pocket aces and, like, man, you're just such a good poker player. And, like, he knows that he has a hand. Like, he knows it. I really believe that Seattle comes to play Sunday. I think that something happens in this game, and it gets really, really uncomfortable for San Francisco. I do think San Francisco's defense gets them out of this hole. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think San Fran wins this one 19-16.
Yeah, I don't think I have a score prediction, but I do think that the 49ers are going to beat Seattle because they held them to 13 points. Their defense is really good. And like you guys said, with Brock Purdy being in the system, the 49ers have a solid system. They have a good defense, and it's one of those situations, like Micah Parsons said, some teams are system teams where you can throw any quarterback in, make adjustments, and have them win. That's the situation that we're seeing with Brock Purdy and the 49ers. So the defense really hasn't changed much since they've matched up with the Seattle Seahawks in Week 15. And the Seattle's only touchdown in the offense came, I believe it was after, or Seattle score came after a block field goal, if I'm not mistaken. So I would say based off of talent alone, give me the 49ers.
I like it. Godfrey, you got the Niners close. Kyle, Niners close. Carolina, Niners close. I got the Niners close. We all agree there. Saturday night football. I've already tipped my hand. You guys already know where I'm going. I won't hide it. I already said this earlier when I was talking about Sean Payton going there. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Dougie P, my man crush in Jacksonville. This guy took a team from the first overall pick to the playoffs. I don't care if it's in the AFC South. That Jacksonville team has improved every game this year. Trevor Lawrence, he's a bust. No, he's Urban Meyer. An issue with Urban Meyer. I love Duval County. Saturday night, give me the Jaguars to beat a Chargers team they already beat earlier this year. Give me the Jaguars. Whoever wants to go next, go ahead.
I'm gonna get the Jaguars. They won the last 5 in the row. They've been explosive. They really, really found their niche in how they play. They were able to defeat a great Cowboys team in overtime. That was a great game. Then you saw the last game against the Titans. They scored their final touchdown in an explosive fourth quarter drive. So if you were to ask me, I'm gonna go with the Chargers too, 100%. I mean, the Jaguars, 100% for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with the Jaguars. I wanted them to win that division. They proved it to me. I think this is a game where it might start off slow because both quarterbacks kind of getting their playoff legs. But I feel like this game, we might see a lot of points. But I like the Jags probably by about maybe by a touchdown, by about 6 points.
Give me the under. Okay, Godfrey, what do you got in this one?
I've been going back and forth on this. I'm still with the Jags now, but I have to put an addendum in there. Like Mike Williams is reported.
Chargers earlier.
No, did I thought I picked the Jags earlier.
You might have picked the Jags.
Yeah, but Mike Williams is traveling with the team, so he has a genuine chance to shoot up. I believe it's a difference-making situation. But knowing Dougie P, he in the short time he was here, he did a lot, and he wins games he's not supposed to win. And he's that guy. And the thing is, I think we overrate experience sometimes when we look at things. These guys on Jacksonville are playing with house money and they're not scared. That's my point. Like, experience is good, but these guys, a lot of them are getting in their first playoff game, and I think that's dangerous. You go out there and you don't know, you're not intimidated. You don't even know you're supposed to be intimidated. So these guys, I think, are going to go out there, and I'm going to take the Jags in a close one. I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going to take the Jags in a close one. Right, the Mike Williams thing is what pushed me over the edge for him.
We're all in the Jags. It's 4 for 4. So far, the Seahawks and Chargers are going to win. I'm kidding. Next one. This is the easiest game of the weekend. The easiest game of the weekend. There's talks Damar Hamlin might be at the game.
Yeah.
Nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo by 100. I'll take Buffalo over Skylar Thompson and the Miami Dolphins. And Carolina, if you don't know my joke, when I think a game is going to be a blowout, I call it by 100. I know it's not going to be by 100, but I think this game's over, and I think it's over quick. I got Buffalo winning this one 34-6. Hill is injured. Waddle is injured. Skylar Thompson is terrible. Yeah, Buffalo by a million.
Buffalo by a million too. Give me Buffalo for sure. I love them. I love Buffalo. Give me Buffalo all day long.
Let's go, Buffalo.
Yeah.
You know that's their fight song, by the way?
I
know that?
I went to Buffalo to visit the facility like about 5 or 6 years back. And when I went to go visit them, I was told that if it's snowing and it's a blizzard and you shovel their snow, they give you free tickets. So if you guys move to Buffalo, that's a cool thing that I didn't know.
Did you know that their fight song is a remake of the song Shout?
Really? I didn't know that. I got to go listen to it now.
The Bills fight song is "The Bills make me want to shout, throw my hands up and shout." Come, like, I swear to you, I'm not kidding. I've been to a Bills game. I've been to a Bills Dolphins game. J.P. Lossman was the quarterback. It blew my mind.
J.P. Lossman.
You remember that? J.P. It's going to be a loss, man.
They seem like fun.
Yeah, it's every Bills fan I met is fun. I mean, listen, I think the Bills are going to win by a lot. I don't know if they're going to circle the wagons because it's going to be a radio flyer wagon that's going to be there, or a big wheel. I don't know if you can call Skylar Thompson, a whole wagon. That dude is that, when they won that game and he was walking off the field against the Jets, he was like, I could read his face. He's like, yes, I'm going to start a playoff game. Yes. Because Tua was never going to play. I felt that they're posturing, and listen, they're going to beat them pretty handily. And if you did shovel snow for free when they get that new stadium in Buffalo, they're going to charge you to shovel the snow when that new stadium goes in, just to let you know. You need a seat license to shovel snow, but Bills by a lot.
Yeah, I'm right there. I'm taking Buffalo as well. If Hamlin shows up at the game, add 14 to their total. I mean, it's gonna get ugly. So yeah, Buffalo by a lot.
All right. So the first of the two actually, you know what? The first of three controversial games, but this is a game that has upset written all over it. Kyle, start us off. The New York Football Giants are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. 4:30 Sunday afternoon in a dome. They just were there a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see in this one? Giants or Vikings?
I think I'm going to go against the trend here. I actually think the Vikings pull this one off. I've been speaking highly about Kirk Cousins all year. I can't bail on him now when he needs it the most because I think it might start off rough. There might be some rumblings in the stadium because we all know, Kirk Cousins, and a lot of people don't believe in this Vikings team. But I think they find a way. I think Justin Jefferson has a big day. I would like to see them probably early on get some quick passes to Jefferson, let Cousins kind of settle in. And I think Dalvin Cook will be important as well because he can take a lot of pressure off of Cousins. I know the Giants are getting a couple of guys back, but I'm sticking with the Vikings. I think it's a close one. I could see a Greg Joseph field goal to win it. So give me Vikings by 3.
Carolina?
Vikings are one and done. They're going to be exposed. NFC North is one of the weakest divisions in the NFL. They face all the other teams twice a year, with the exception of the Lions. I like the Lions. With the exception of them, you have, they've been successful, but the Giants were in the hardest division in the NFL this season. You had the Eagles, you have the Cowboys, then you have the Giants. They've had a lot of tough matches against them. Plus, the Vikings have offensive line injury issues coming into this game. So Vikings are going to be one and done. And I can't wait.
She's not a Bears fan.
Yeah,
right?
not a Bears fan at all.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Godfrey.
This is another tough one. I mean, I look at the game that they had, and their leading receiver for the Giants were Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins. Both had about 90 yards, one had a touchdown. Darius Slayton had about 80 yards. Nothing against those guys, but on a lot of teams, they're the 4th, 5th, and 6th receiver, maybe 3rd at best. But that speaks to how bad and how horribly the secondary of the Vikings have played. And I think that's going to be their Achilles heel. And I think they're going to lose a close one. I see the Giants edging them out. I see like a 24-21 game.
I'll give anybody $5. I'll cash out you $5 if you can tell me the cornerback that plays opposite of Patrick Peterson on the Vikings without looking it up.
No idea.
Duke Shelley. I'm not trying to be smart when I say this. I think the Giants are the better coach team. I think they can run the football with Dalvin Cook. I think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to bring a world of hurt to Kirk Cousins in that backfield. I think Brian Dable wins this football game. I think the Giants move on and face my Philadelphia Eagles next round. So
I'll be alone on that one. I can handle that.
All right. Kyle, when you're normally alone, you're normally right.
Great. One of us, when you're all right, one of us, we're going to be surprised by one of these goddamn teams. I'm going to be upset.
100%. It happens all the time. That's the way the NFL is. Sunday Night Football. Been waiting all day for Sunday night, and Lamar Jackson's not playing again. Grade 2 MCL sprain, 3-week injury.
Oh, wrong sound effect. I meant to boo him because
it's six weeks since the injury. It's the playoffs. Lamar Jackson was supposed to be out for 3 weeks. I will say it because no one else wants to. Everyone's Lamar's, he's still hurt and there's still swelling. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear it no more. Don't want to hear it no more. Lamar Jackson is sitting out for a contract. It's wrong. It's wrong for his teammates. It's wrong for the Ravens organization. I do not believe for 1 minute that he can't play this Sunday. I cannot. I'm done. I heard, well, they're resting him for the playoffs, where they're doing this. They're making sure he's 100% healthy. Bullshit. Lamar Jackson is pulling I don't have a long-term contract, so I got a boo-boo. And I'm not playing. Do you not realize, and this is what drives me nuts, right? If you're a signed quarterback that's like won a team a Super Bowl, won multiple playoff games, fine. You were drafted by this Ravens organization. You won the MVP with an offense that was designed 100% around you. They drafted 2 wide receivers in the first round in the last 5 years. One of them has already requested to leave, and he's been traded to the Arizona Cardinals, and that's Hollywood Brown. They brought in numerous wide receivers to try to play with him. They have Mark Andrews. They drafted a running back in the second round, J.K. Dobbins. They drafted a center, the best center in the draft, by the way, this year to protect him. I am tired of hearing Lamar does not have anything around him. Lamar doesn't have anything around him because Lamar can't make receivers better. Stop lying to yourself. He relies on his legs, and he wants that $50 million contract, and that's where we're at right now. He's sitting because he doesn't want to injure himself, and he wants to increase leverage. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to win this game. And I got news for you. Lamar plays Sunday night, Cincinnati loses. Cincinnati's missing their left tackle, their right tackle, and their right guard going into this game. They lose if Lamar plays. But Lamar's not playing. Joe Cool is the second best quarterback in the NFL. That's Joe Burrow. He's just behind Patrick Mahomes. Only quarterback in the league I have him behind. I'll take the Bengals in this one. I think it's still going to be close. Roquan Smith, you know it. Guy's an absolute animal. Patrick Queen, Marlon Humphrey. They got a good team. Baltimore's got a good team. Cincinnati wins. Joe Cool's too much.
I think Cincinnati's going to win too, and I second your Lamar opinion. I'm tired of hearing excuses too for Lamar. You know, it's one thing. A player, if they want more money, I'll never begrudge that, right? If they want to watch out for their health, that's fine. But you're sitting in a playoff game. That's not about. That's a bad teammate. I'm sorry, no one wants to say it. That's a bad teammate. You guys put your body on the line as a football player, and there's a lot of people that do it. And he wants that Deshaun Watson money, and frankly, he doesn't deserve it. I mean, let's be real. He's been hurt a quarter of the season, the last 2 seasons. Whether it's by design for him or not, he's still been out. Your best ability is your availability. His QB rating's gone down pretty much year after year. More interceptions, less touchdowns because he's not adjusting to the game. The game is adjusting to him.
Yep, and he can't throw outside the numbers.
And this deal would have been done if they beat Kyler Murray's number. And I'm pretty sure they're willing to do that. But he wants more than that.
And he wants guaranteed.
And he wants it fully guaranteed. And I just think it's nuts because from a football sense, everybody knows if you watch the film, and this is where you get in trouble with the Lamar stands. Listen, he doesn't want to pass outside the hash marks. Okay? And that's where his game suffers. Part of the passing game. He has the arm to go to distance, but he's not making those passes. And that's why he's 1-3 in the playoffs. Let's be real about it. He after the MVP year, it's been down every year production-wise. And you brought up Brian Flores earlier. I remember the game where Brian Flores completely hosed him when they were 2-7, I believe, at that point.
Thursday Night Football.
And they
ran nickel double A all night. They ran nickel double A all night. They blitzed him 6 rushers at the passer all night.
Not one adjustment in his game that night. And I don't know if that's coaches or him, but it's looking more like it's him. And for me, if he had an agent, he's probably playing. Him being his own agent, he's making a bad decision. It's not a good look for him because he's not playing. So Bengals are going to win by a mile. He should be playing. The fact that he's sitting out is ridiculous to me in a playoff game. And, it's a PCL injury. They said 2 to 4 weeks. Say what?
He said his knee feels unstable.
Yeah, I saw it. I don't buy it.
Lamar Jackson and the Ravens versus Bengals.
Listen, someone knows what's going on. Like I said, I've quoted it before. The Richard Sherman podcast, when he first got injured, he said, if I'm Lamar, I'm like, all right, guys, I'll see you next season. Sort it out. And guess what? That's exactly what he did.
Yep. Carolina, what you think?
Bengals are going to win for that reason if Lamar Jackson doesn't play. But I will say this. I like the fact that he's sitting out.
Really?
I'm a Lamar Jackson kind of a stan a little bit. You mentioned a name that is familiar with me that's on the Ravens. It's Roquan Smith. You already know. Lamar Jackson's acting as his own agent. Do you remember when Roquan Smith was doing the exact same thing? When he sat out at Chicago because he didn't have his own agent, he was acting as his own representative. He could have possibly had conversations with Roquan Smith too, his homie, and said, hey, look, you don't have an agent, do what I did. You need to sit out and get that money. And that's exactly what happened, because sometimes players need to look out for their best interests and do what's best for themselves, especially if, they're putting out stories. The Ravens are putting out stories. Some conspiracy theorists that he's, not necessarily their generational quarterback because of his injuries. This is somebody who's been proven to be a good quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, they have their offensive line issues that they've had in the past couple of years, but I do think that, yes, it is kind of crappy that they're in this situation and he is sitting out, but I think he needs to get that money, and I'm happy with him sitting out.
So
Roquan didn't sit out a playoff game, though.
Well,
I know he didn't, but I would say that he kind of got some advice from Roquan Smith. That's my conspiracy theory.
I want to give you a rebuttal to that real quick. And then Kyle, just follow right up on me. But here's my rebuttal on what you were saying. I understand what you're saying as far as if a player wants to sit out to get money on a second contract. If they weren't offering him money, if they franchise tagged him, he is on a contract. They drafted him in the first round, so he got paid more money the first 4 years with the fifth-year option. They did that intentionally. They traded back in that round to pay Lamar more money. Had they not offered him $46 million a year? So they're offering him that money. He's not accepted because he wants a higher contract. He wanted to bet on himself. This is not just because Arizona makes an awful decision and Denver makes an awful decision on what they pay their quarterbacks and the guaranteed money, and Cleveland makes a terrible decision on their contract for Deshaun Watson, does not mean an organization like the Ravens have to make that same bad decision. This is the second year in a row Lamar Jackson's not playing in December and January. Second year in a row.
I understand that, and I agree with you that they don't have to make those decisions, because especially since he has his injury issues. But I also see why he's doing it. 100%. I see why he's doing it. Whether we agree or not, I can totally see why he's doing what he's doing. Is it crappy for Ravens fans? Is it crappy for people who think, yeah, get your ass in there, you need to go play because you're going up against the Bengals? I think it is kind of crappy, but I do think I understand where he's coming from. I'm going to give him some grace. But if I was a Ravens fan, I'd be pissed off.
I mean, what do you like in this game?
Well, I like the Bengals. I think the Bengals and Burrow will go deep in the AFC playoffs. I could probably argue even if Lamar played, I'd probably still pick the Bengals. But I think the thing with Lamar is, like, I'm with Gene. I can't stand here and the Ravens haven't done anything for him. They literally tailored everything to Lamar. They prioritized, Mark Andrews because Lamar's comfortable throwing over the middle. Mark Andrews is a great target. Ravens fans will say, well, let's get burners out, on the outside down the sideline. For what? To have them block when he scrambles or something? Like, what are we doing? I mean, I've seen plays where he scrambled out. I think it was like a Thursday night game. He had like Robinson streaking down the sideline. Lamar threw it like 4 yards out of bounds, and there was nobody around him. So I feel like the Ravens have done everything they can. I think the problem with it is if they move on from Lamar, they'd probably have to change so much with their framework that it would take a few years.
Agreed.
And if Lamar goes anywhere else, that team's now going to have to change what they do. So I feel like the two of them are kind of married together. At some point, they'll reach some compromise in the contract. I feel like he stays there. I think there's no way he doesn't that he leaves.
Every word that you just said. Guys, we have about 6 minutes. We're up against the clock. We got one more playoff game, and it's the game I feel most strongly about this weekend. Godfrey and me are on the exact opposite side. We talked about this on Birds Beat. The Cowboys are going to Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I am not trying to be rude when I say this, but if you can tell me why Tampa Bay is going to win this football game without saying the words Tom Brady, I will be floored. Tampa Bay stinks. They're 32nd in the league running the football. Their offensive line is depleted. They're on their third string center. Tom Brady has looked like a shell of himself the entire year. They've almost lost to Arizona with I forget who, Trace McSorley was quarterback for them. They should have lost so many games this year. The Cowboys average 10 more points a game than them. Their defense is better. Their offense is better. How in the world is this not a blowout? other than saying Tom Brady or Dak chokes. That's the only two words that will come out of everyone's mouth. They can't give me any logical reason why Dallas does. Dallas is going to destroy them. Dallas is going to make that game last year on Monday Night Football when the Rams destroyed the Cardinals, that embarrassment that happened. They're going to make that game look like it was a close game Monday night. Dallas is going to destroy them and set up one of the greatest NFC championship games we've ever witnessed. Eagles-Cowboys in Philadelphia. I'm telling you it's going to happen. Book it.
I'm going to take the Cowboys too. I think if I can't say the word Tom Brady, then there's really no reason for me to pick the Buccaneers. Cowboys are have proven themselves, time and time again throughout this season that even without Dak Prescott, they can still be effective. They've also proven that they're talented despite the struggles that Kellen Moore may have from time to time too. So give me the Cowboys because of I would just say they're going to come back from that loss against the Commanders. So that's why I say they would have this win, and they need it because Mike McCarthy's ass is on the line, even though I really don't think it is. But I think he has something to prove. I think he has something to prove that he can get a playoff win, and take them to the top. He made those mental mistakes the last playoffs or last year in the playoffs, which got them the loss out of the playoffs. So I would say, yeah, give me the Cowboys. And people usually say like Tom Brady has the professionalism and the experience, and that'll take them to the top regardless of what's happening around him. But there's too many. Like football is a team sport at the end of the day, so Tom Brady can only do so much.
Agreed. Kyle?
Well, Gene, I'm taking the Bucks. I just feel like, I think there's two ways about it. If the Cowboys don't blow out the Bucks and this game is close late, I think the Bucks will find a way to win that. I feel like the Cowboys should blow them out because they are the more talented team. If the NFC South knew what they were doing, somebody else would be in this game other than the Bucks. I mean, let's be honest. The rest of the division finished 7-10. If one of them could have figured out their quarterback situation or whatever, they would have won that division. It's just Dak's play of late has been troubling to me. The interceptions I don't like because he's been a guy who's supposed to be, very good with the football, high completion percentage and all that. And we're seeing him make like unprecedented moves with his decision making. I think in a game like this, if he throws an interception or two and we get late in the fourth quarter and you have the ball in Brady's hand, he has to make one drive. I don't care what their seasons look like. You need one drive and a score. Brady's my guy. So I think that's what it comes down to, and I got the Bucks winning this one.
Here's a weird stat real quick before Godfrey goes. This is the Cowboys season. I want to read it to you out loud. Loss followed by 4 wins. Loss followed by 2 wins. Loss followed by 4 wins. Loss followed by 2 wins. Loss. If they continue on the trend they've been on and they win 4 straight games, they'll win the Super Bowl. Now, I don't want that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But the Cowboys have not lost 2 straight games this year. They've bounced back after every loss. I hope so. I hope you're right. Godfrey, tell me they're going to choke and tell me about Tom Brady, and then we'll wrap the show up.
So over the last 7 games, Dak Prescott has 11 interceptions. The Cowboys are 1-4 on grass this year, and this was partially on Yahoo, and I pulled some other stats. And their points per game when they're on grass drop by 7 points a game. Steals their speed away from them. Tampa Bay has grass. I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I'm going to take the points. I think the Bucks win. I think Lenny runs on them. They've been having problems with that lately. And I think they get it done. And I think Todd Bowles has a defense that is going to be able to bottle up Dak Prescott. And the thing with Dak Prescott, and you saw it against the Redskins, you get up by 13 points, game's over. He ain't coming back. Doesn't matter. Because when they know he has to pass and he's lost a little bit of mobility with that ankle injury, that they're not afraid of him. 11 interceptions. I mean, these aren't all bad teams. Titans, Commanders, Eagles, good team. Jaguars, good team. Texans, bad team. Colts, bad team. Giants, I don't like the Giants, but playoff team. So, 2 interceptions, 1, 2, 2. I mean, it's consistent. 45 quarterback rating against the Commanders. Completion percentage of 37%. Wow. I'm going the Buccaneers.
I like it. Real quick, 8:30. Carolina, do me a favor. We appreciate having you on. Tell all the listeners where we can find you at, how we can follow you, how we can support you, because you've been awesome. You're obviously welcome to come on here anytime you want. We love talking to you.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you guys, enjoyed having me on. I'm really thankful that you guys had me on today. And also, it means a lot to me because I heard some stuff about me from people's mouths today and it ruined my day, but talking to you guys made my day all over again. So thank you guys so much for your kindness and professionalism. And Godfrey, I really need you to send me afterwards. You need to send me a messenger of where you found that stat of how teams perform on grass as opposed to not on grass. I like that, and I need to use that in the future. So send that to me ASAP. You can find me at Carolina Teague _ on Instagram. You can find me on Carolina Teague _ on Twitter. You can find me on Carolina Teague _ on TikTok, and you can also find me, at your Texas ring announcing events and wrestling all over the state of Texas, what I'm saying, winning awards and whatnot, because I'm the Texas best wrestling ring announcer, top voted in the state, period. And also I'm on ESPN 97.5 Houston. I'm their Cowboys analyst. And also I cover the San Antonio Spurs on a consistent basis here in San Antonio. And I'm a sports writer as well. That's me, Carolina Teague. Thank you guys for having me on. Y'all are the best.
All right, so we appreciate having you on. We're going to end this because it's right before Pregaming Pigskin, right before the playoffs, and we're going to give our Super Bowl predictions based off this playoffs. Just quick, who beats who in the Super Bowl? I will start. The Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Buffalo Bills.
That was what I was going to say. In
your head.
Straight up. And I'm going to tell you who co-signed that thought. I interviewed one of the first female coaches for the Buffalo Bills this past year before the season started, and I asked her who's her top dogs. She said the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills are going to make it to the top. Nobody believed in the Eagles before the season started. Nobody. Now look, she was right. I'm gonna ride with her. Eagles, Bills win.
Godfrey.
Yeah, unfortunately, being an Eagles fan, I am predicting a Super Bowl loss as well. I won't be buying any merchandise. I don't buy loser merchandise no Super Bowl merchandise for me.
Oh, we have 3 Bills over Eagles picks. Change it up for us.
I will definitely change it up. I've got Bengals over the Niners. I think Burrow gets that Super Bowl. Yeah, lights that cigar, probably rocks a fur coat or something. I don't know. It's Joe Burrow's world. I'm just enjoying it.
That would have to be a record. That'd be a third Niners-Bengals Super Bowl.
I really appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been an awesome show. This has been great content. It'll be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Follow us on Sports Empire Network. I'm Wire to Wire Gene. That's D. Godfrey. That's the production manager, Kyle Edwards. And we were joined by the lovely Carolina Teague. Thank you so much for tuning in. And this is Pregaming Pigskin. We are signing out.